Florida homeowners may be getting one of the biggest property tax breaks we've seen in years. And if you own a home here in Florida, especially if it's your primary residence, this is something that you need to pay attention to. But before anybody starts celebrating and thinking that their property tax bill is just going to outright disappear, there's some fine print. And that fine print matters. So in this video, I'm going to break it down in plain English. What's being proposed, who it could help, what it does not do, and the big question homeowners should be asking, is this real tax relief or is it just shifting the cost somewhere else? If we haven't met yet, I am Mike Jones. I'm a realtor here in Northeast Florida, and I help homeowners understand what's really going on in the housing market without all the hype and confusion. And right now, one of the biggest topics in Florida real estate is property tax relief. Because let's be honest, homeowners are getting squeezed. You got higher insurance cost, higher repair cost, higher interest rates if you bought recently, and in many areas, property taxes have gone up too. So when people hear property tax relief, they're going to listen, and they should. But they also need to understand exactly what's on the table. So Florida lawmakers have approved a proposed constitutional amendment that's expected to go before the voters in November 2026. If voters approve it, the homestead exemption for the non-school portion of property taxes would increase. The current homestead exemption is generally $50,000. Under this proposal, that exemption would increase to $150,000 in 2027 and then $250,000 in 2028 for the non-school portion of your property tax bill. It would need at least 60% voter approval to pass. Now that sounds massive, and for some homeowners it could be. But here's the part that people need to understand. This does not mean that every part of your property tax bill just goes away. School taxes would still remain. The expanded exemption would apply to the non-school portion of your property taxes. So if you hear somebody say, Florida is completely eliminating property taxes, be careful, because that's not exactly what this proposal does, at least not as it currently stands. Now for homeowners, this could be a very big deal because your property tax bill is part of your cost of ownership. And when that cost keeps going up year after year, it affects absolutely everything. It affects retirees on fixed income. It affects young families trying to keep their monthly expenses under control. It affects people who bought a home years ago and now just feel like the cost of simply staying in that home keeps getting more and more expensive. And it also affects anyone trying to decide whether they should just stay put, downsize, move, or sell. So yes, tax relief sounds good. Most homeowners would probably welcome it, but we need to look at both sides for sure. The biggest benefit would likely go to Florida homeowners who have a homestead exemption. In plain English, that usually means that the home is your primary residence. It's not an investment property, not a second home, and not a vacation rental. So if you live in your home full-time and you qualify for homestead, this proposal could potentially reduce the taxable value used for the non-school portion of your property taxes. I keep saying non-school portion. For example, if you own a modestly priced home and a larger portion of your home's value becomes exempt from non-school taxes, that could create meaningful savings. And in a market like Jacksonville, where there are still plenty of homes in the $250,000 to $450,000 range, this is the kind of thing homeowners are going to want to understand, because it could affect your annual tax bill. It could affect affordability. It could affect how attractive Florida looks compared to other states. But here's the catch, and here's where homeowners need to slow down just a bit. Now, everybody likes lower taxes. I like lower taxes. You like lower taxes. Nobody opens up their tax bill and says, you know what? I wish that this was higher. But local governments use property tax revenue to pay for things. Police, fire, rescue, roads, libraries, parks, infrastructure, and all kinds of local services. That's why some local officials are already raising concerns about how cities and counties would replace that revenue if the amendment passes. Jacksonville area leaders have voiced concerns about the potential budget impact, including public safety, road maintenance, libraries, and other city services like the ones I just mentioned. And that's the real debate. Is this true relief for homeowners? Or does it just mean services get cut, fees go up, or a cost gets moved somewhere else? And that's the part that homeowners need to think through, because there's no such thing as free money in government. If one revenue source gets reduced, the money usually has to come from somewhere else. Now let's clear up a few misunderstandings. This does not mean that your entire property tax bill automatically disappears. This does not mean that every homeowner gets the exact same savings. This does not mean that investors and second homeowners get the same benefit as homesteaded homeowners. And this does not mean that it's already final. Voters still have to approve it, and that's important. This is not a done deal at all. It is a proposal headed to the voters, and because it's a constitutional amendment, it needs strong voter support. So what should you do as a Florida homeowner? First, don't panic. And don't make a big decision based on headlines alone. Second, make sure that your homestead exemption is in place if the home is your primary residence and you qualify. That's already important under Florida law, and it could become even more important if this proposal passes. Third, take a look at your actual property tax bill. A lot of homeowners don't really know what they're paying for. They just see the total number. But your tax bill is broken down into different parts, and this proposal is specifically about the non-school portion. So when you hear property tax relief, don't just think about the total number. Look at what part of the bill could actually be affected. Fourth, keep an eye on the November 26th election. This is something homeowners will likely hear more and more about as we get closer to the election season. And I can almost guarantee there will be a lot of confusing information just floating around. Some people will say it's the greatest thing ever. Other people will say it's going to destroy local services. The truth may be somewhere, though, in the middle. Now let's talk real estate for just a second. Could lower property taxes actually help home values? Possibly. If Florida becomes more affordable from a tax standpoint, that could make homeownership more attractive, especially for retirees, remote workers, and people who might be moving here from other states with higher taxes. But it's not that simple, because homeowners are still dealing with insurance costs, buyers are still dealing with affordability issues, interest rates still matter a whole lot, home prices still matter, and monthly payment still matters. So I would not assume that this one proposal suddenly fixes the entire affordability problem. It could help for sure, but it does not erase all the other costs of owning a home in Florida. So here's the bottom line. If this passes, many Florida homeowners with a homestead exemption could see property tax relief on the non-school portion of their tax bill. That could be meaningful, but homeowners need to understand the details. It hasn't passed yet. It would not remove school taxes. It may not benefit every property owner in the same way. It won't. And local governments are already asking, how will we fund services if property tax revenue drops? So yes, this could be good news for homeowners, but it is not something to blindly celebrate without understanding the trade-offs. My advice is simple. Watch this closely. Make sure that your homestead exemption is in place and correct. Look at your actual tax bill so you understand fully where that money goes. And don't make decisions based on social media headlines, because when it comes to property taxes, the details matter. And in Florida, this could become one of the biggest homeowner issues heading into the 2026 election. If you own a home in Florida, or you're thinking about buying or selling here in the Northeast Florida area, make sure that you're paying attention to this. And if you found this helpful, do me a favor, push the like button, click the like button, whatever it is you got to do, and subscribe to the channel. I'll keep breaking down what's happening in the Florida housing market in plain English without the hype.